going to have subspecialty boards in adolescent medicine. I had had no formal training in adolescent medicine except my close relationship with Adele and all the other, and I would go up to Harvard every year and take that CME course. Wherever anything was going on, I would try to be there. Oh, I have to tell them about SAHM.
Right.
You know, one of my friends who was at the University of Vermont called me and said, you know, there are a group of people, I know you're interested in adolescent medicine. There are a group of people meeting down in Washington, and I hear that they're getting ready to form a subspecialty group in adolescent medicine. So I got on the plane and went to Washington. And Felix Heal was having this postgraduate program. And the next year, SAHM was founded. I believe if my history is correct. And the next year, I joined. So I joined the year after SAHM was founded. And then this was a wonderful experience for me. All of my SAHM brothers and sisters welcomed me, and I enjoyed being on the executive board of SAHM. And then I was just into a lot of things. Let's see, where
you were into a lot of things.
Yes,
right.
I don't see how I did all these things.
Yeah.
I was on all these committees for the Michigan State Medical Society when they would have their annual meetings. I was formulating their pediatric programs or adolescent medicine programs. I was telling women about their importance in medical politics, and I was just busy all the time. Another thing that I did, the children who were in foster care I was very concerned about the kind of medical care they were getting. The social workers would pick them up and take them down to Children's Hospital, and maybe a resident would see them. So I went to the director of the Children's Hospital, not of Children's Hospital. I went to the director of the children in foster care for Wayne County and said, you know, I think the children would be better off if we had a medical facility right here in your building. So he said, well, that doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. So I set up 2 examination rooms, a consultation room, and dental services right for them there. Then another thing I did, I stopped the social workers from bringing the children. I would have the foster parents bring the children. We uncovered so many cases of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and so forth. So that was, and another thing that I was doing, anytime that a community hospital wanted to set up something in pediatrics, I would make myself available. And for instance, and you see many of the black physicians were still going to community hospitals. So if they were going to set up a newborn nursery, I would say, okay, you want me to, I'll do it for you, but I would get with the contractor, do the floor plan, know how many bassinets they're going to have, write all the procedures, help them buy everything to the last syringe and so forth. All they had to do was pay me. So, okay.
Right. And then the adolescent boards and what happened around that.
Oh, yes. Well, I had said I had no formal training in adolescent medicine, but I had such wonderful mentors, and I was always reading everything and going to CMEs and so forth. But, and the adolescent boards, the first time they were given, you know, they were grandfathering people in. If you had no formal training, you could still take the exam. But Don Granatus was very nice to me, and he had been one of Adele Hoffman's training. And he was at the Michigan State, he was on the faculty at Michigan State, but the med school at Michigan State has satellite clinics where they train the 3rd and 4th year students. So Kalamazoo Center for Medical Studies was a new building. This was the part of Michigan State University. So Don was there. So I went back to Don and had training under him before I took the board. And I felt, you know, I felt that I was prepared to take the board. I really, and I had never not been able to accomplish anything that I wanted in my career. But the day before that I was to take the boards, I took them in Chicago. I found a mass in my left breast. And I said to myself, now, can mind over matter? Can you take care of this? I felt that I had breast cancer. I knew I was a smart doctor. I knew I had breast cancer. But I said, I'm not going to share this with anybody. I'm just going on and take this board. It was the worst day in my life. I said, am I going to die? Do I have metastasis? Just all of this. That was in 1994. On December the 14th, 1994, I had a lumpectomy. My antibody titers, A and B, were negative. All my lymphos were negative. So I asked my surgeon after I had the lumpectomy, can I go and ski? And he said yes. So I went to Beaver Creek for a week and Vail for a week. You're on top of the mountain, you get rid of all of your worries. And then I elected to have 6 weeks of radiation, and that was it. And I've never had anything, so I'm a specimen. But this made me very dedicated to women, and especially to African American women, about the detection of breast cancer, so that any woman who comes into my office, whether she is accompanying an adolescent, and I also talk to the adolescents, I have this little spiel I give them about the morbidity and the mortality rates among African American women because it's not detected early. So that's what I've done. Okay.
Natalia has over 2-page single-space list of honors and awards. We could spend 2 hours talking about. I'd like you to read Francis Howell Wright's.
Oh, yes.
He wrote a wonderful thing about, and I wanted to read that.
The chairman of the Department of Pediatrics at the University of Chicago wrote the history of the Department of Pediatrics. And this is part of it that I'm going to share with you. He said, segregation, end of a shibboleth. In the spring of 1946, a pleasant, obviously intelligent black girl requested an interview for pediatric residency training at the University of Chicago. She stated that she had graduated from the University of Chicago and had been accepted by the medical school at the University of Chicago, but elected to go to Meharry for reasons of loyalty to her race. A black physician had never been trained in our institution, and I was mindful of the former statements by the administration. Natalia Tanner Kane served her first year of pediatric residency to the delight of us all. Unfortunately, we could not persuade her to stay longer, and she went with her new husband to Detroit and fashioned an outstanding career in academic and clinical medicine. This episode killed the last vestige of racism in our department and at the University of Chicago. The above is taken from the history of the Department of the University. So, yeah.
Thank you for reading that.
Oh, I want to tell you a little bit about my American Academy experiences. I was on the task force. I was on a lot of things for the Academy. I don't understand how I did all these things, but I guess I was younger and had a lot more energy. I was on the task force for the Academy for the past, present, and the future of the Academy. This was not a permanent task force, but we looked at the Academy. Then I was on the task force for women for the Academy, and now that's a women's committee. Some of you may have attended some of these, but we wrote a publication, Women in Medicine, at that time. And at that time, there was only one other African-American woman who was board certified in pediatrics, and she had been one of my teachers and was one of my, Margaret Lawrence was her name. But she never joined the Academy. She went into psychology. One of her daughters is on the faculty at Harvard, and she's written a book about her mother. It's, I forget the title of it, but anyway. Then I was on the AAP Adolescent Committee for 6 years. I was on the National Nominating Committee, and this was quite an experience. The Academy had never had a female president, and Bill Montgomery ran, and he didn't win. And then they allowed him to be nominated again, and he won the second time. When Toni Eaton's name came up, she ran the first time, but she was not elected. I was on the National Nominating Committee, But the men didn't want Toni Eaton nominated again, but I stood my ground. And she was nominated and she won. She was the first female president of the Academy. I think we've had 6 now because yes, we've had 6 because Renee was the 5th. And then oh yes, I see Renee back there. How are you? And then the president-elect is a female. So I think the women have left their mark on the Academy, but I was determined that Toni Eaton was going to be nominated. I was not going to let those men not give her the same equitable point. Let's see, what else?
Well, I have some other awards that are interesting here.
Oh, okay.
She got the Art Award for the Detroit Institute of Art.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you did. The Elaine Locke Award for Support of Art.
Well, you can understand, I'm sure that some of you I'm a frustrated artist. And you see, I feel just like clothing is an expression of art, the color and so forth. And I feel that I haven't been fulfilled. You know, I paint, but it hasn't been something that I feel has been consummated in my life. So that when living in Detroit, I chaired outdoor art festivals. I was on 2 or 3 committees of the Detroit Institute of Arts. I was on the Detroit Symphony Orchestra for 2 terms. I was just into a lot of things. So that when the Elaine Locke Award, when I was selected to be the recipient of this, Elaine Locke was a professor of art at Howard, and he's written several books. And this award had nothing to do with my professional accomplishments. So that I was so pleased and so proud of this particular award. Thank you.
And then the SAHM Award, the Outstanding.
Oh, yes. Well, I felt that the SAHM Award meant more to me than any other award that I was privileged to be a recipient of, because I worked so hard for it. And for your colleagues to recognize you, this meant so much to me. And if you remember my acceptance speech, it was In Search of Excellence. That was the name of it. And then after you reach a certain age, people just want to keep giving you awards and plaques.
Really? We know your 2 little daughters were born. What happened to your daughters over time?
Well, our 2 children, I'll say this, that my husband was a very successful surgeon, so we had a very nice lifestyle. I had 2 beautiful homes, and we always opened our homes to medical students.